Hi there, Stitchers. Welcome back to Libby Rose Embroidery. I'm Elizabeth, the proprietress of this estimable establishment. Wouldn't that be nice, eh? Somebody wants to come and pay you to do what you love. Well, we can dream. In the meantime, Flosstube. So this month's Flosstube is looking at what I've got up to over the month of October. Can see what I bought when I was at the Knit and Stitch show and at ArtConTex, and also how the projects are coming on. This seems like something you'd be interested in. Stay watching. So Flosstubers love cross stitch, so let's start with a cross stitch. Why oh why did I ever think that this would have going to be a quick stitch? This is what it is, and you can see what's been done so far, just a little bit of the background here. This is kind of unusual because normally when I've done cross stitch projects in the past, you find you're working the cross stitch bits first and then doing the background last. No? And maybe other people work differently, but starting from the center here, first time ever, I'm starting on the background. So I'm thinking I'm going to get the background done before I actually start with the foreground. But I have no idea how long this is going to take. This is a lot more fiddly than I expected. One of the reasons is I don't really find anchor charts that easy to follow. When I started doing cross stitch, I used charts from magazines, which were all in colour. Here, you know, this sort of thing, massively easier to follow. Here, you just get a symbol, and I find this kind of difficult to follow because of your eyes always trying to find where was I last. So yeah, it's a little more complex than I expected. But why the extra colours? I think the answer to that in one word is realism, really. If you have a look at the picture again, you notice that all the greens, all the different seasonal greens there are exactly the same. And this seems to be a typical thing with anchor kits, that they just use a small selection of greens there, 2-6 range of greens, so 265, 266, 267. I got out my own ones out of my own stash to use those up first before the skeins that came with the kit, because there were 3 skeins that came along with this one. But I looked at this and I thought, but greens are different all around the year, so I've got different greens for the various bits of foliage. And also blues, blue skies, sky blues, they're different in different parts of the year. So again, I've got some different blues. I've got some more purpley blues for the winter one. And I forget what the reasoning was with the others. I'll have to think about that before I stitch it. And then pinks. In the colours that you get here, as you can see, there's not really any pink. The chaffinch, okay, chaffinches tend to be more rather peach than pink, don't they? But here, these dog roses, I'm assuming, are more, they're more purpley pink, aren't they, than a very peachy pink. So I've got some different pinks out to work those in. And purple being my favourite colour, I couldn't do a piece this size with no purple in. So there's a little bit of blue just here. So I'm going to replace that with purple, because it's probably meant to be bluebells, because I'm assuming this is the spring quadrant. But I can use it with violets as well. And if these are apple blossoms, well, again, they have a little bit of pink on. So I looked up some photographs online and yeah, just selected some extra colours to go in. But yeah, it's going to take longer than I thought. But then I realised this isn't actually part of the finished project. What's the finished project, I hear you ask? Well, of course, the clue's in the name. So few people select a word of the year. So for this year, I selected finish as my word, because I had a lot of projects that needed finishing. Let's have a look. Every year I buy a copy of the Stitcher's Journal by the Stitching Cabin, run by Hayley. So my friend Catherine and I refer to this as our Hayley Journal. And on the whip roll call here, what I did is at the beginning of the year, I put a picture of each project where it actually was at that point. So you can see some of the projects. If you've been watching any of my videos, you'll have seen the frog being finished. You may remember seeing these having been mounted, and this one coming back from the framers. This one you're going to see a bit more of shortly. And then here's the bag project, which is also coming up, and so is this one. So all these things needed finishing. This is a course that I'll get to, just not yet. But these are the things that I started the year not having finished, that I wanted to finish. So finished, 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 finished. In progress, finished, in progress. But obviously the cross stitch isn't here. Now, the finished project isn't just about needlework. I also have some other things. There's a number of books to read and also a bunch of personal care products to use up. So these are products that I didn't particularly like, or we're getting a little bit old, or I'm done with. Let's get them finished up. So I used these two up today, so I'm proud of myself. So I'm not too far off finishing the finished project. So what's up for next year? Well, maybe I'll think of a word to put on the front of this one. Here's the new one, hot off the press. Arrived yesterday. There's a link in the description box on how to get hold of yours, but be quick. It's currently #1 bestseller in embroidery and #2 in cross stitch on Amazon, so you're not going to want to miss it. In the future Flosstube Extra, I'll be showing how the journal works and how I use it. This is the frame set up and ready to start stitching for the bag project, which you'll have seen on page 3 of that whip roll call. Here are the 2 flaps that are completed there. So this is ready to start now. I've made some mistakes in the transfer and those are all corrected and it's ready to go. But I asked myself yesterday, why am I working hard on this one? Because what I really wanted to do over the autumn was finish this one. Really, Lib? I mean, come on. How does that work? I'm not kidding you. I just paused the video here to change projects and I got a phone call from somewhere in China. There was nobody there, of course, but how in the world? Anyway, whilst this is still here, I have actually done a little bit on this in that I have tightened the frame up. These were all very loose before and moved it round that way. They're not as good as slate frames, these, but they're not so bad. So it's all red tight, it's ready with some new paper on and ready to go. So the first thing to do is to finish off these pink motifs here and the multicoloured ones down the centre. That's the first thing to do. So I've got the threads out ready and I've also got a diagram that I made on top of a photograph of it, which shows me exactly what I need to stitch next. So that's what I need to stitch next. And last for embroidery projects, I have made some discernible progress on this actually. As anybody who's seen the stitch vlog will know, I removed some beading from around here, some pieces of stitching around here, and some very badly worked stitching here, and I've traced in the new things. So yesterday I sat down, did some padding and a little bit of stitching here. So this one is part of the finished project and hopefully it will be finished by the end of the year, but maybe not. There's actually quite a lot to do because what I'm hoping to do with this one is pretty much fill the frame and there's quite a lot of space left, as you can see. Whilst I'm on with this one, don't you just love these needle minders? I have a whole series of them. Here are most of the rest. This one and one of the others, which I think is on a different frame. They were all custom made, but they are made by a lady called Cheryl who runs Chapel View Crafts. You can find her on Etsy, but she also has her own website and there's much more to choose from on the website. So yeah, if this is the sort of thing you find you could use, I'd highly recommend them. The magnets are easy to get apart, but they're not so easy to get apart that they're no use. I think these are really excellent. I can't recommend them highly enough. Changing craft now, and we're on to knitting, and what you're looking at now is as far as I got last time. And if you remember, I realised that I made a mistake, and so I had to pull it all the way out to just the ribbing, as you can see here, and now we're back up to this level. Something tells me this is going to take a little longer than I planned, but for some reason 3 or 4 months ago me increased only, I think, 8 stitches instead of 26 at the end of the rib, so I ended up having to do it again, but it's a whole lot better to do that than a jumper that can't be used. Last up is this cardigan project, progressing nicely. I got the 2 fronts finished as I'd wanted to do and started on the last piece, which is the second sleeve, and hopefully this time next month I'll be able to show you the completed item. Okay, last but not least, new things. I've been to 2 events recently, and this is the stuff I got from ArtConTex because Piper Silks were there. So this, I couldn't resist. Purple is my favourite colour, and I confess I didn't try very hard to resist, but this is their floss silk, which I'm quite fond of, but I need to learn how to use better. It's definitely user error, this problem. So I need to do some samples with that, but those purples are just luscious. The others, these are the very, very fine silks that I'm hoping one day I might do some sort of doll's house size miniatures that are quite realistic. So these are the 220 silks, the very finest they do, and these are the 420s. So I got a good colour selection between them, and that's the first thing that I got from there. I also got this gorgeous Japanese fabric, fat quarter. I've completely forgotten the name of the business. I think it might have something to do with Sashiko in the name. But yeah, that was such a pretty piece. And of course purple, so I didn't have any purple Japanese fabric, now I do. Moving on to a stand I always spend money at. Even when I was on a fairly strict craft supplies no buy, I still bought a couple of things from Golden Hind. I've got a bunch of these 371 threads. They're useful for couching down. It's quite similar to passing thread, but they don't tarnish, and they come in a really big range of colours. They're for those of you who know anything about gold work, they're usually the gauge of passing thread 4, so it's quite fine. But some of the colours are now available in a gauge 6 equivalent, so I'm definitely looking forward to looking at some of those. I have a floral project that I want to do. If anybody's familiar with the Craftsy platform, there's a gold work course on there, and I want to do that flower and put plenty of green and red in. So these are also for that. There's a piece of raised work that I'm going to do in green, but also pick it out with a few bits of red. So that's lots of bits from Golden Hind. Some of these are to do chips and make chipping rather than actually using it as cut work. Another couple of stands that I usually part with some cash at. Imogen Melissa, who is a bead embroiderer. She does a few of these packs of beads, and what I'm wanting to do is put together a creative embroidery kit to go in the go bag. So these are mostly for that, and so are these, which was from Spellbound Beads. They're based in Lichfield in Britain, and they do the most gorgeous selection of beads, and this is one I bought from the Embroiderers Guild stand. And finally, in the stash enhancement section, we have fabrics. These are hand-dyed chiffon by Kate's Cloths from the north of England, and then there's various pieces, fat quarters here from various sellers. Some are batik, so there's another Japanese, purpley Japanese fabric. Actually, is that the same one? It looks, no, it's not the same one because I've moved it. Oh yeah, it's a different one, but it's very similar. So you can see my favourite colours really, can't you? Usually purple, and green of course is just so useful, and this blue is beautiful. So it came from various quilting and fabric stands. So that's it for this month. I hope you've enjoyed seeing what I've been up to and what I've been buying. Yeah, let me know, what have you been up to? What's been your highlight of the last month and your work? Thanks for joining me. See you again next time. Bye. Link in the description blocks of how to get hold of one of these blocks. Oh, for pity's sake.